brief moments of hope over the years, no one has ever been charged in this crime. But there may be a new development. Boulder police have just said that they have new evidence in the case.
Boulder, Colorado, December 1996. A city known for its peaceful streets, mountain views, and university campus life. But on one cold winter morning, everything changed. A little girl's murder would expose police failures, destroy a family's reputation, and create one of the most debated mysteries in American criminal history. Her name was JonBenét Ramsey. She was 6 years old. For 28 years, her case has been dissected by detectives, analyzed by forensic experts.
Our detectives have conducted several new interviews, as well as re-interviewed individuals based on tips that we've received. We've also collected new evidence and tested and retested other pieces of evidence to generate new leads. Techniques and technology constantly evolve. This is especially true with technology related to DNA testing. Detectives continue to consult with outside experts from across the country, as well as our state and federal partners, to strategize and explore all options when it comes to evidence testing.
Sensationalized by media and debated by millions of people who believed they knew what happened that night. Some were convinced the family was responsible. Others believed an intruder broke in. The theories were endless, the accusations were brutal, and the truth remained hidden until now. Because in 2024, something remarkable happened. Advanced DNA technology that didn't exist when JonBenét died.
Techniques and technology constantly evolve. This is especially true with technology related to DNA testing. Detectives continue to consult with outside experts from across the country, as well as our state and federal partners, to strategize and explore all options when it comes to evidence testing.
Has finally produced results. Genetic genealogy, the same method that identified the Golden State Killer after 44 years, has been applied to evidence collected from JonBenét's clothing in 1996. And investigators have identified someone, a person who was never a suspect, a person who had no known connection to the Ramsey family, a person whose DNA profile matches the unknown male DNA found on JonBenét's body. This is the story of how cutting-edge science, persistent investigation, and 28 years of relentless pursuit may finally reveal what happened on that December night. This is the story of the breakthrough that could change everything. Before we examine the breakthrough that's bringing this case closer to resolution than ever before, make sure to subscribe to the Investigation Room and hit that notification bell. Here at the Investigation Room, we don't chase sensational headlines or feed conspiracy theories. We examine the evidence, analyze the investigation, critique the failures, and search for truth in cases that have haunted families for decades. We believe every victim deserves thorough, respectful, and factual coverage. We believe justice delayed doesn't have to mean justice denied. New in-depth documentaries every week. If you've followed this case for years, if you've wondered whether it would ever be solved, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Do you believe DNA evidence will finally identify JonBenét's killer? Now let's dive into the evidence that's rewriting everything we thought we knew about this case. Before we examine the breakthrough, we need to understand who JonBenét Ramsey was. Not the pageant photos that dominated tabloids, not the symbol she became, the real child. JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia. Her name combined her father's first and middle names, JonBenét. She was the youngest child in the Ramsey family. Her father, John Ramsey, was a successful businessman. He had founded Access Graphics, a computer services company that had recently become a billion-dollar subsidiary of Lockheed Martin. By 1996, John was wealthy, respected in Boulder's business community, and living what appeared to be a charmed life. Her mother, Patsy, Pat Pa Ramsey, had been Miss West Virginia in 1977. She graduated from West Virginia University and had pursued a career before dedicating herself to raising her children. Patsy was involved in the community, active in her church, and known for her warm social personality. JonBenét had an older brother, Burke, who was 9 years old in 1996. The family also included 3 older half-siblings from John's first marriage to Lucinda Posh, though these children were adults and not living in the Boulder home. Tragedy had already touched the Ramsey family. In 1992, John's eldest daughter, Elizabeth, died in a car accident at age 22. The loss devastated the family, particularly John, who had been extremely close to his daughter. The Ramseys lived in a large Tudor-style home on 15th Street in Boulder, one of the city's most affluent neighborhoods. The house was approximately 7,000 square feet, with 15 rooms spread across multiple levels, including a complex basement with several storage areas, a boiler room, Burke's train room, and a small wine cellar. JonBenét was, by all accounts, a vibrant, energetic child. She loved performing. She sang at her church choir, she took piano and violin lessons, she was preparing for the children's Christmas pageant at St. John's Episcopal Church, and yes, she competed in child beauty pageants. This aspect of her life would later become one of the most controversial elements of media coverage. JonBenét had won several titles: Little Miss Colorado, Colorado State All-Star Kids Cover Girl, America's Royale Miss. The pageants were Patsy's idea. Having been Miss West Virginia herself, Patsy enjoyed the world of competition and performance. She saw the pageants as an opportunity for JonBenét to build confidence, make friends, and enjoy the spotlight she seemed to naturally gravitate toward. Critics would later argue that the pageants sexualized a young child, that the makeup and costumes were inappropriate, that participating in such competitions might have attracted dangerous attention. Defenders pointed out that thousands of children participate in pageants without harm, that JonBenét appeared happy in videos and photos, and that there was no evidence the pageants had anything to do with her death. JonBenét attended High Peaks Elementary School. Her teachers described her as bright, kind, and social. She had friends, she was invited to birthday parties, she played with neighborhood children. In the final months of 1996, JonBenét's life seemed normal, happy, full of the activities and routines of a typical 6-year-old in an affluent family. Christmas 1996 was supposed to be no different. The family had celebrated Christmas morning at home, opening presents. JonBenét received a bicycle she had wanted. Burke got various toys and games. The house was decorated, the tree was surrounded by gifts. That evening, December 25th, the Ramsey family attended a Christmas party at the home of Fleet and Priscilla White, close friends who lived nearby. The families exchanged gifts, shared dinner, and the children played together. According to everyone who was present at that party, it was a normal.
December 26, 1996, approximately 5:30 a.m. Patsy Ramsey woke up to prepare for the family's planned trip to Michigan. She got dressed, applied her makeup, and went downstairs to start coffee and make final preparations before waking the children. As she descended the spiral staircase from the second floor to the first, Patsy noticed something on one of the lower steps. 3 pieces of paper laid out in sequence. It was a ransom note, handwritten, nearly 3 full pages. Patsy picked up the pages and began reading. The note was addressed to John. It claimed to be from a small foreign faction. It stated that JonBenét had been kidnapped. It demanded a $118,000 for her safe return, the exact amount of a bonus John had recently received from Access Graphics. The note was bizarre in almost every detail. It was long, rambling, almost theatrical in tone. It included what appeared to be quotes from movies like Speed and Dirty Harry. It warned the family not to contact police or FBI, threatening that JonBenét would be beheaded if they did. It instructed John to withdraw the money in specific denominations, $100,000 in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. The note said the family would receive a call between 8 and 10 a.m. with instructions for delivering the ransom. It was signed SBTC. No one has ever definitively determined what those initials mean. Patsy screamed. She ran upstairs to JonBenét's bedroom. The bed was empty. At 5:52 a.m., Patsy Ramsey called 911. The call was frantic, nearly incoherent. "We have a kidnapping," Patsy told the dispatcher. "There's a note left, and our daughter is gone." The dispatcher tried to calm her to get information. Patsy explained that she had found a ransom note and that JonBenét was missing. John got on the phone briefly to confirm the situation. The dispatcher told them police were on the way and advised them not to touch anything in the house. But it was already too late. The crime scene was about to be catastrophically compromised.
Officer Rick French of the Boulder Police Department arrived at the Ramsey home at 5:59 a.m., just 7 minutes after the 911 call. He was the first law enforcement officer on the scene. Officer French entered the house and began what should have been a systematic search and securing of the crime scene. But what happened instead would become one of the most criticized law enforcement responses in modern American history. The house was not sealed. Friends and family members began arriving. John had called his pilot to arrange a flight to Atlanta. He had called Fleet White, who came with his wife, Priscilla. Other friends arrived. The Reverend from their church came. Within an hour, more than a dozen people were moving through the house, making coffee, using bathrooms, sitting in various rooms, waiting, consoling the family. Every person who entered that house was a potential source of contamination. Every surface they touched, every room they walked through, every item they moved could have been critical evidence. Officer French did conduct a search of the house. He walked through rooms on the first floor, the second floor, and the basement. He checked windows. He looked for signs of forced entry. In the basement, he opened the door to a small wine cellar, a windowless storage room. The room was dark. Officer French didn't turn on the light. He didn't step inside. He glanced in, saw nothing obvious, and closed the door. He moved on with his search. JonBenét's body lay on the floor of that wine cellar, just feet from where Officer French stood. If he had turned on the light, if he had stepped inside, he would have found her within an hour of the 911 call. Instead, her body would remain in that room for more than 7 hours, while the scene above was contaminated beyond repair. Detective Linda Arndt arrived at the Ramsey home around 8:10 a.m. She was alone, waiting for backup and the kidnapping specialist team that had been called. According to protocol for ransom situations, the family was supposed to wait for contact from the kidnappers. The ransom note had specified a call between 8 and 10 a.m. 8 a.m. came and went. No call. 9 a.m. No call. 10 a.m. No call. The tension in the house became unbearable. If this was truly a kidnapping, why hadn't the kidnappers made contact? Where was JonBenét? At approximately 1 p.m., more than 7 hours after the 911 call, Detective Arndt made a decision that would alter the course of the investigation. She suggested that John Ramsey and Fleet White search the house again, top to bottom, to see if anything seemed unusual or out of place. John and Fleet headed to the basement. They checked Burke's train room. They looked at windows and storage areas. Then John walked to the far end of the basement, to the wine cellar, the same door Officer French had opened that morning.
Investigators finally descended into the basement. This time he turned on the light and he saw his daughter. JonBenét lay on the floor, covered with a white blanket. A piece of black duct tape covered her mouth. A white cord was tied around her neck, fashioned into a crude garrote with a broken paintbrush handle attached. Her hands were tied loosely above her head with white cord. John screamed. He immediately tore the duct tape from her mouth, picked up his daughter's body, and carried her upstairs. This instinctive human reaction destroyed critical evidence. The position of the body, the immediate crime scene context, potential trace evidence, all of it was compromised the moment John moved her. Detective AR saw John emerge from the basement carrying JonBenét. She checked for a pulse. There was none. The child's body was cold. Rigor mortis had already set in. JonBenét Ramsey had been dead for hours. At 10:05 p.m., she was officially pronounced dead. What had begun as a kidnapping case had become a murder investigation, and the crime scene, already contaminated by hours of foot traffic, was now irreparably damaged. On December 27, 1996, Dr. John Mayer, the Boulder County coroner, performed the autopsy on JonBenét Ramsey. What he discovered would become the foundation of 28 years of investigation, debate, and controversy. The official cause of death was asphyxiation due to strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. In simpler terms, JonBenét died from being strangled, and she had also suffered a severe skull fracture. The strangulation was caused by a device investigators would call a garrote.
Someone had taken white nylon cord and tied it around JonBenét's neck. They had then attached a broken handle from one of Patsy's paintbrushes, creating a device that could be twisted to tighten the cord. The cord had been tightened with such force that it had embedded deeply into the skin of JonBenét's neck, creating a furrow nearly 3/8 of an inch deep. This wasn't a simple ligature strangulation. This was a deliberate, sustained application of force. But the strangulation wasn't what initially incapacitated JonBenét. The autopsy revealed a massive skull fracture on the right side of her head. The fracture was 8.5 inches long, a linear crack that ran from the top of her skull toward the base. The force required to create such a fracture was substantial, consistent with being struck by a heavy object like a flashlight, a baseball bat, or a similar blunt instrument. Beneath the skull fracture, there was significant hemorrhaging in the brain. This indicated that JonBenét's heart was still beating when the injury occurred, that she was alive when she was struck. Here's where the timeline becomes critical. Based on the medical evidence, Dr. Mayer and subsequent experts who reviewed the autopsy determined that the skull fracture occurred first. JonBenét was struck on the head with tremendous force. This blow rendered her unconscious immediately, but it didn't kill her right away. Medical experts estimated that JonBenét remained alive, unconscious but breathing for approximately 45 minutes to 2 hours after the head injury. During this time, she would have been unresponsive, her breathing shallow, her body beginning to shut down. The strangulation came later. At some point during those 45 minutes to 2 hours, someone tied the cord around her neck and tightened it until she stopped breathing. This sequence raises one of the most disturbing questions in the case. Why was there a gap between the head injury and the strangulation? What happened during that time? The autopsy also revealed evidence of injury to JonBenét's genital area. There was a small amount of dried blood in her vaginal area and on her inner thighs. There was an abrasion on her hymen. The interpretation of this evidence has been hotly debated. Some medical experts and investigators believe this indicated sexual assault on the night of the murder. Others suggested it could have been evidence of chronic abuse. Still others argued it might have been an accidental injury, possibly from being wiped too roughly or from irritation unrelated to the crime. Dr. Mayer noted in his autopsy report that he could not definitively determine whether JonBenét had been sexually assaulted on the night of her death. The evidence was ambiguous. JonBenét's stomach contents provided another crucial piece of evidence. The autopsy revealed partially digested pineapple in her stomach and upper intestine. Based on the state of digestion, Dr. Mayer estimated that JonBenét had eaten pineapple approximately 1 to 2 hours before her death. This detail would become significant because Patsy had told investigators that JonBenét fell asleep in the car on the way home from the Christmas party and that John carried her directly to bed. Patsy stated that JonBenét did not eat anything after they returned home. But if JonBenét ate pineapple 1 to 2 hours before her death, and if the estimated time of death was between midnight and 2 a.m., then she must have eaten the pineapple sometime between 10 p.m. and midnight. And here's where it gets even interesting. Investigators found a bowl of fresh pineapple on the kitchen table. The bowl had a serving spoon in it. Fingerprints on the bowl belonged to Burke Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey. So who gave JonBenét the pineapple? When did she eat it? Was she awake and downstairs after the family returned home, or did someone wake her up and bring her downstairs? This seemingly small detail has never been adequately explained by any theory of the case. The autopsy also revealed evidence of injury to JonBenét's genital area. There was a small amount of dried blood in her vaginal area and on her inner thighs. There was an abrasion on her hymen. The interpretation of this evidence has been hotly debated. Some medical experts and investigators believe this indicated sexual assault on the night of the murder. Others suggested it could have been evidence of chronic abuse. Still others argued it might have been an accidental injury, possibly from being wiped too roughly or from irritation unrelated to the crime. Dr. Mayer noted in his autopsy report that he could not definitively determine whether JonBenét had been sexually assaulted on the night of her death. The evidence was ambiguous. JonBenét's stomach contents provided another crucial piece of evidence. The autopsy revealed partially digested pineapple in her stomach and upper intestine. Based on the state of digestion, Dr. Mayer estimated that JonBenét had eaten pineapple approximately 1 to 2 hours before her death. This detail would become significant because Patsy had told investigators that JonBenét fell asleep in the car on the way home from the Christmas party and that John carried her directly to bed. Patsy stated that JonBenét did not eat anything after they returned home. But if JonBenét ate pineapple 1 to 2 hours before her death, and if the estimated time of death was between midnight and 2 a.m., then she must have eaten the pineapple sometime between 10 p.m. and midnight. And here's where it gets even interesting. Investigators found a bowl of fresh pineapple on the kitchen table. The bowl had a serving spoon in it. Fingerprints on the bowl belonged to Burke Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey. So who gave JonBenét the pineapple? When did she eat it? Was she awake and downstairs after the family returned home, or did someone wake her up and bring her downstairs? This seemingly small detail has never been adequately explained by any theory of the case. The autopsy also revealed evidence of injury to JonBenét's genital area. There was a small amount of dried blood in her vaginal area and on her inner thighs. There was an abrasion on her hymen. The interpretation of this evidence has been hotly debated. Some medical experts and investigators believe this indicated sexual assault on the night of the murder. Others suggested it could have been evidence of chronic abuse. Still others argued it might have been an accidental injury, possibly from being wiped too roughly or from irritation unrelated to the crime. Dr. Mayer noted in his autopsy report that he could not definitively determine whether JonBenét had been sexually assaulted on the night of her death. The evidence was ambiguous.
There were marks on her wrists from the cord used to bind her hands, though the binding was loose and appeared more symbolic than functional. The duct tape found over her mouth showed fibers that would later be analyzed. The white cord used for the garrote and the wrist bindings would be traced to a type sold in hardware stores, but the original roll was never found in the Ramsey home. The autopsy was thorough, professional, and devastating. It confirmed that JonBenét had suffered terribly. She had been struck with tremendous force. She had been strangled deliberately. She had died in fear and pain. And someone, somewhere, knew exactly how it happened. If you want to understand why the JonBenét Ramsey case has remained so controversial for 28 years, you need to understand the ransom note. Because this single piece of evidence is so unusual, so contradictory, so bizarre that it has fueled endless debate about who killed JonBenét and why. The note was written on paper from a pad found inside the Ramsey home. The pad was located on a counter near the kitchen phone. The pen used to write it was also from inside the house, a black felt tip marker that was found placed back in its holder after the note was written. Think about that for a moment. Whoever wrote this note didn't bring materials with them. They used items from inside the house. And after writing the note, they put the pen back where it belonged. What kidnapper does that? The note itself was nearly 3 pages long, approximately 370 words. Most genuine ransom notes are brief, direct, and to the point. They state the demand, give instructions, and end. This note rambled. It included unnecessary details. It sounded almost theatrical. Here's part of what it said. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. The note went on for 2.5 more pages. It demanded $118,000, specifying that John should withdraw the money in $100,000 in 100 bills and the remaining $18,000 in 20 bills. It warned against contacting police or FBI, stating that JonBenét would be beheaded if they did. It instructed John to be well rested and told him to wait for a call between 8 and 10 a.m. It included phrases like, "Don't try to grow a brain and use that good Southern common sense of yours," and it was signed SBTC. Forensic linguists and document examiners have analyzed this note for decades. Here's what they found. First, the note contained phrases and references that appeared to come from movies. "Don't try to grow a brain" is similar to a line from the movie Speed. The overall tone and phrasing echoed Dirty Harry and other crime films. Second, the vocabulary and writing style suggested someone educated. Words like attaché instead of briefcase, hence, adequate, and the overall syntax indicated a writer with a good command of language. Third, the $118,000 demand was oddly specific. This wasn't a round number. It wasn't a random figure. It was almost exactly the amount of John's recent bonus from Access Graphics. How would a random intruder know that number? Fourth, and perhaps most significantly, investigators found what appeared to be a practice ransom note in the same notepad. Someone had started writing Mr. and Mrs. R, then stopped, tore out the page, and started over with Mr. Ramsey. This suggests the writer made a false start, reconsidered their approach, and began again. What kidnapper takes time to write a practice draft? The Boulder Police Department brought in handwriting experts to analyze the note. 4 experts examined the handwriting and compared it to samples from John Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey, and others with access to the home. John Ramsey was definitively ruled out. His handwriting bore no resemblance to the ransom note. Patsy Ramsey could not be ruled out. 2 of the 4 experts said they couldn't definitively say Patsy didn't write the note. 2 others said the evidence was inconclusive. But importantly, no expert said with certainty that Patsy did write the note. The handwriting analysis became one of the most controversial aspects of the case. Some characteristics in the note appeared similar to Patsy's natural handwriting, the loops, the slant, certain letter formations. But other characteristics were different. The overall style seemed like someone trying to disguise their handwriting, which made definitive attribution nearly impossible. Independent handwriting experts hired by the Ramsey family's defense team later concluded that Patsy did not write the note. They pointed to fundamental differences in letter formation, pressure patterns, and natural writing tendencies. The debate has never been fully resolved. But here's what makes the ransom note truly bizarre. If this was written by an intruder, the timeline makes no sense. Think about it. An intruder breaks into the house or is already hiding inside when the family returns home. They have to wait for everyone to go to sleep. They then have to find paper and a pen, sit down somewhere in the house, and spend at least 20 minutes writing a 3-page note. Why would they take that risk? Why not write the note before entering the house? And if they intended to kidnap JonBenét for ransom, why did they kill her and leave her body in the basement? The note promised to call between 8 and 10 a.m., but no call ever came. If JonBenét was already dead, the note served no purpose. It couldn't produce a ransom. It couldn't facilitate a kidnapping. All it did was buy time before the body was discovered. Unless that was the point. Unless the note was designed not to collect ransom, but to mislead investigators, to make them think this was a kidnapping when it actually was a murder staged to look like something else. This is why some investigators believed the note was written by someone inside the home, someone trying to create a false narrative, someone who killed JonBenét either intentionally or accidentally and needed to explain why a body was about to be discovered in the house. But if that's true, how did they write such a long, detailed note when John was searching for his daughter and police were about to arrive? When did they have time?
The ransom note remains one of the most analyzed pieces of evidence in criminal history.
And after 28 years, it still hasn't given up all its secrets. For years, the JonBenét Ramsey case was stuck. The Boulder Police Department believed the family was responsible. The Ramsey family insisted an intruder had killed JonBenét. The evidence seemed to support both theories, and neither theory completely. Then DNA technology changed everything. In 1997, during the initial investigation, forensic scientists found DNA from an unknown male on JonBenét's underwear. The DNA came from blood mixed with JonBenét's blood in the crotch area of the underwear she was wearing when her body was found. This DNA was tested and entered into CODIS, the FBI's combined DNA index system, which contains profiles from convicted offenders and arrestees across the country. The DNA didn't match anyone in the Ramsey family. It didn't match any family friends who had been in the house. It didn't match anyone in the databases at the time. Initially, some investigators dismissed this DNA as potentially irrelevant. They theorized it could have been deposited during manufacturing, that someone at the factory where the underwear was made might have touched it, leaving behind trace DNA. But in 2003, something changed that theory. New DNA testing technology called touch DNA had been developed. This technique could extract genetic material from tiny amounts of skin cells left behind when someone touches an object. Investigators used touch DNA technology to test the waistband of the long underwear JonBenét was wearing over her regular underwear, and they found something remarkable. There was male DNA on the waistband, and it appeared to match the DNA found in the underwear. This was significant. Finding the same unknown male DNA in two different locations on two separate items of clothing made it much less likely that this was innocent transfer from manufacturing. This suggested that someone had physically handled JonBenét, touching both her underwear and her long johns on the night she died. In 2008, then District Attorney Mary Lacy took an unprecedented step. She sent a formal letter to John Ramsey officially exonerating the entire Ramsey family based on the DNA evidence. The letter stated, "The match of male DNA on two separate items of clothing worn by the victim at the time of the murder makes it clear to us that an unknown male handled these items. There is no innocent explanation for its incriminating presence at two locations on these two different items of clothing." Lacy apologized to the Ramsey family for the years of suspicion they had endured. She acknowledged that the investigation had focused too heavily on the family and not enough on the intruder theory. But not everyone agreed with this exoneration. The Boulder Police Department publicly disagreed. They argued that the DNA evidence, while significant, wasn't necessarily proof of an intruder's guilt. They pointed out that the amount of DNA was extremely small, measured in picograms. They noted that DNA transfer can occur in unexpected ways, that someone could have touched the clothing at some point before the murder. Critics of the exoneration also pointed out that all the other evidence, the ransom note, the lack of forced entry, the staging of the crime scene, still suggested someone with intimate knowledge of the house was involved. The debate raged for years. Was the DNA evidence the smoking gun that proved an intruder killed JonBenét, or was it a red herring, a piece of trace evidence that had nothing to do with the murder? Then in the 2010s, everything changed again. A new technology emerged that would revolutionize cold case investigations: genetic genealogy. This technique uses DNA evidence not just to search criminal databases, but to search public genealogy databases, where millions of people have uploaded their DNA profiles to trace their ancestry and find relatives. Even if the perpetrator's DNA isn't in any criminal database, genetic genealogy can identify distant relatives, second cousins, third cousins, people who share segments of DNA with the unknown profile. Investigators can then build family trees, trace lineages, and narrow down potential suspects to specific individuals. This is the technology that identified the Golden State Killer in 2018, after 44 years. Joseph James DeAngelo had never been on law enforcement's radar. His DNA wasn't in any criminal database, but genetic genealogy traced his family tree through distant relatives, and investigators were able to pinpoint him as the suspect.
Since then, genetic genealogy has solved dozens of cold cases. Murders that went unsolved for 30, 40, even 50 years have been cracked using this technology. And in 2021, the Boulder Police Department and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation announced they were applying genetic genealogy to the JonBenét Ramsey case. They took the unknown male DNA profile found on JonBenét's clothing and uploaded it to public genealogy databases. They began searching for matches, and they started building family trees. This process takes time, months, sometimes years. Investigators have to identify every potential match, trace family lineages back several generations, build out complete family trees, and then narrow down which branches of those trees could include someone who was in Boulder, Colorado in December 1996. Then investigators have to investigate each potential candidate. Where were they living in 1996? What was their age? Did they have a criminal history? Any connection to the Ramsey family? Can their whereabouts on Christmas night 1996 be established? And crucially, can investigators obtain a DNA sample from the person to compare directly to the crime scene evidence? This is painstaking, methodical work, but it's work that has produced results in case after case. And according to sources close to the investigation, it has produced results in the JonBenét Ramsey case. In late 2022, information began to emerge that the genetic genealogy investigation had made significant progress. Investigators had built family trees, they had narrowed down potential candidates, and they were conducting follow-up investigations. By 2024, according to sources familiar with the case, investigators have identified a person of interest whose DNA profile is consistent with the evidence found on JonBenét's clothing. Let's be very clear about what this means and what it doesn't. A person of interest is not the same as a suspect. It means investigators have identified someone they want to question, someone whose DNA requires further testing. Someone's background and whereabouts in 1996 need to be thoroughly investigated. It does not mean this person has been charged. It does not mean prosecutors believe they have enough evidence to bring this case to trial. It means the investigation has finally produced a viable lead after 28 years. So, who is this person of interest? Based on information that has been reported, though not officially confirmed by law enforcement, the individual is a male now in his late 50s or early 60s. He was living in the Boulder area in December 1996. He had a history of breaking into homes in Boulder neighborhoods during that time period. He had been investigated for property crimes, though he was never charged with anything violent. His whereabouts on Christmas night 1996 cannot be definitively accounted for. He has no clear alibi for the critical hours between 10 p.m. on December 25th and 6 a.m. on December 26th. And crucially, his DNA, collected lawfully during the recent investigation, appears to match the unknown male DNA found on JonBenét's clothing. Investigators are now working to build a complete case. They're re-examining every piece of evidence with this person in mind.
The boot print found in the basement near JonBenét's body. Investigators are trying to determine if it matches footwear this person owned in 1996. The palm print on the wine cellar door. They're comparing it to this person's palm print. The broken basement window. They're investigating whether this person had knowledge of the Ramsey home's layout, whether he could have entered through that window. They're interviewing people who knew him in 1996. What was his behavior like? Did he ever mention the Ramsey family? Did he follow the case closely when it was in the news? They're examining any possible connection, however tangential, between this person and the Ramsey family. Did he ever do work on their house, deliver something there, attend the same church, have any interaction with John, Patsy, Burke, or JonBenét? But here's where the case becomes incredibly difficult. Having DNA evidence and a person of interest is not the same as having a prosecutable case. After 28 years, prosecutors need much more than DNA to bring charges that will result in a conviction. They need to be able to place this person inside the Ramsey home on Christmas night 1996. They need to be able to explain the ransom note. How did he know about John's bonus?
When did he write the note? Why did he leave it on the stairs? They need to explain the crime scene. Why was there no clear sign of forced entry? How did he move through the house without waking anyone? How did he have time to assault JonBenét, kill her, stage the scene, and write a ransom note? They need to explain the behavior of the Ramseys themselves. If an intruder killed JonBenét, why did police focus so heavily on the family? What evidence made them seem suspicious? They need to overcome the contamination of the crime scene. Evidence that should have been preserved was destroyed. Potential witnesses are now deceased. Memories from 1996 are unreliable. And perhaps most importantly, they need to tell a story that a jury will believe beyond a reasonable doubt. Because make no mistake, if this case goes to trial, it will be one of the most watched trials in American history. The defense will have every resource available. They will challenge every piece of evidence. They will point out every mistake the Boulder Police Department made in 1996. They will argue that the investigation was so badly botched that no conviction can be trusted. Prosecutors know this. They know they have one shot. If they bring charges and lose a trial, double jeopardy means they can never charge this person again. The case would be forever closed with no justice for JonBenét. So they're being methodical, they're being thorough, they're making sure that when they move forward, if they move forward, the case is as strong as it can possibly be. District Attorney Michael Dougherty, whose office would prosecute any charges in this case, has stated publicly that his office has successfully prosecuted cold case homicides before. He's made it clear that age of the case is not a barrier to justice. But he's also said that whether it's DNA or other evidence, more is needed to solve this murder. That's where the investigation stands right now. DNA has produced a person of interest. Investigators are building the rest of the case, and prosecutors are waiting to see if the evidence will support charges. For the first time in 28 years, there is genuine hope that this case might be solved. But hope is not the same as certainty, and leads don't always result in arrests. Even if the person of interest identified through DNA evidence is eventually charged and convicted, massive questions remain about this case, questions that may never be fully answered, questions that complicate any theory of what happened that night. Let's start with the ransom note. If an intruder killed JonBenét, how do we explain that 3-page ransom note written on paper from inside the house with a pen from inside the house? Some theorists have suggested the intruder entered the house earlier in the day, perhaps while the family was at the Christmas party. He hid somewhere in the large home, waited for everyone to go to sleep, and during that waiting period, he wrote the ransom note. But this raises more questions than it answers. Where did he hide? The house was decorated for Christmas, with family members moving through rooms. Burke was playing with new toys. Patsy was in and out of the kitchen preparing for their trip the next day. How does someone hide for hours in an active house without being discovered? And why write the note at all? If his plan was to kill JonBenét and leave her body in the basement, the note served no purpose. It couldn't collect ransom. It couldn't facilitate a kidnapping, unless the plan changed, unless he originally intended to kidnap JonBenét. Something went wrong, she screamed or struggled, and he killed her to keep her quiet. Then he left the note anyway, perhaps to buy time, perhaps because he had already written it and didn't know what else to do. But that doesn't explain how he knew about the $118,000 bonus. This wasn't public information. This was a specific number that matched John's recent earnings almost exactly. How would a random intruder know that? Then there's the issue of entry and exit. Every door in the house was found locked from the inside the next morning. Every window was closed except for the broken basement window that John had broken months earlier when locked out. If an intruder entered and exited through that basement window, why was there no clear evidence? The window well outside was full of leaves and debris. but there was no clear disturbance pattern, no footprints, no marks on the windowsill from someone climbing through. Lou Smith, the legendary detective who investigated the case, conducted experiments showing that an adult male could fit through that window, but fitting through and actually entering that way are different things. Where's the physical evidence of entry? Some investigators believe the intruder was already in the house when the family returned from the Christmas party. But again, how, when, and why was there no sign of forced entry at any other point in the house? Now, let's talk about the pineapple. The autopsy showed JonBenét ate pineapple 1 to 2 hours before her death. A bowl of pineapple was found on the kitchen table. Burke and Patsy's fingerprints were on the bowl. The parents said JonBenét was asleep when they got home and went straight to bed without eating. So when did she eat the pineapple? One theory, JonBenét wasn't actually asleep. She was just tired. After being put to bed, she got up, went downstairs, and ate some pineapple. Maybe Burke was already down there having a snack. Maybe she joined him. If an intruder was in the house, maybe he encountered JonBenét in the kitchen. Maybe she had come downstairs for a snack, found a stranger, and was attacked before she could scream loud enough to wake her parents on the 3rd floor. But this theory has problems too. The house was large, but not so large that a struggle on the 1st floor wouldn't be heard on the 2nd or 3rd floors. If JonBenét screamed when confronted by an intruder, why didn't anyone hear? Unless she didn't scream, unless she knew the person, unless she wasn't frightened at first. Then there's the behavior of the crime itself. The head injury came first, rendering JonBenét unconscious. Then 45 minutes to 2 hours later, she was strangled. What happened during that gap? If this was a predator who broke in intending to sexually assault a child, why was there a delay? Predators typically act quickly, commit their crime, and flee. They don't wait around for hours. Unless he thought she was already dead from the head injury and then realized she was still breathing. Maybe he panicked. Maybe he strangled her to finish what he thought he'd already done. Or maybe the head injury was accidental. Maybe in the struggle or assault, she was struck or fell, and then realizing she was severely injured and might be able to identify him if she survived, he strangled her. These are the scenarios investigators are trying to piece together. But without more evidence, without a confession, without a clear narrative, these remain just theories. Now, let's address the staging. The crime scene showed signs of what investigators call staging. The garrote was elaborate, almost theatrical, made from materials found in the house. The duct tape was applied after death, serving no functional purpose.
The ransom note was clearly designed to mislead. Staging typically suggests someone with a relationship to the victim, someone who wants to direct investigators away from the truth. Stranger predators don't usually stage scenes. They attack, commit their crime, and flee. But if the DNA evidence points to someone with no known connection to the family, how do we explain the staging? Maybe he watched a lot of crime shows. Maybe he thought he was being clever, creating a false narrative that would throw investigators off his trail. Maybe he was smart enough to know that staging often points to family members, and he wanted police to focus there instead of looking for an intruder. Or maybe the staging wasn't staging at all. Maybe the garrote was how he intended to kill her all along. Maybe the ransom note was part of an original kidnapping plan that went wrong. Maybe what investigators see as elaborate staging was actually just the way this particular predator operated. These questions don't have clear answers, and that's what makes this case so maddeningly complex. Finally, there's the question of why. If this person of interest is eventually charged, prosecutors will need to explain motive. Why did he target JonBenét? Why this house? Why that night? Was it random? Did he see JonBenét at a Christmas party or pageant and become obsessed? Did he break into the house specifically targeting her? Or was it opportunistic? Was he breaking into homes in the neighborhood that night, entered the Ramsey house expecting it to be empty or to steal valuables, and encountered JonBenét by chance? Understanding motive helps juries make sense of evidence. It helps them see how all the pieces fit together. Without a clear motive, even strong evidence can feel unsatisfying, incomplete. These are the challenges prosecutors face. These are the questions that remain even with DNA evidence and a person of interest. And these are the questions that may haunt this case forever, even if someone is eventually convicted. While we examine the evidence and the investigation, we cannot forget what this case has done to the Ramsey family, because for 28 years they have lived under a cloud of suspicion that destroyed their lives in ways few people can imagine. John Ramsey was a successful businessman in 1996. His company had just crossed $1 billion in revenue. He was respected in the business community, active in his church, living what appeared to be a charmed life. On December 26, 1996, that life ended. John lost his daughter, but he also lost his reputation. Within weeks of JonBenét's death, media coverage began to suggest that the family was involved. Tabloids ran headlines accusing John of covering up the crime. Television specials implied he knew more than he was telling. John cooperated fully with investigators. He allowed police to search his home multiple times. He provided DNA samples. He took polygraph tests, which he passed. He sat for hours of interviews. None of it mattered. The suspicion remained. John's business suffered. Access Graphics, the company he had built, was eventually sold. John stepped away from his role, unable to focus on work while defending his family against murder accusations. His marriage to Patsy was strained to the breaking point, not because they doubted each other, but because the stress of being accused of murdering your own child while grieving that child is unimaginable. They moved from Boulder to Atlanta trying to escape the media circus. It didn't work. Reporters followed them. Photographers camped outside their home. Their every move was scrutinized and reported. Patsy Ramsey suffered even more intensely than John. As the mother, as someone who had been involved in JonBenét's pageant career, as the person whose handwriting couldn't be ruled out on the ransom note, Patsy became the primary target of suspicion. Tabloids portrayed her as a pageant mom who had pushed her daughter too hard. They suggested she had flown into a rage when JonBenet wet the bed, that she had struck her daughter accidentally and then staged the crime scene to cover it up. None of this was based on evidence. It was speculation, character assassination presented as fact. Patsy gave interviews trying to defend herself. She appeared on television saying, "There's a killer on the loose." She begged the public to look at the evidence, to see that the DNA pointed away from the family. It didn't matter. The court of public opinion had already convicted her. In 2006, Patsy was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, a recurrence of cancer she had beaten years earlier. This time, the cancer had spread. Treatment wasn't working. Patsy Ramsey died on June 24, 2006, at age 49. She died without knowing who killed her daughter. She died while much of the world still believed she was responsible. She died without vindication, without peace, without justice. John has said in interviews that watching Patsy die, knowing people thought she was a murderer, was one of the most painful experiences of his life. He couldn't protect her from the accusations. He couldn't clear her name before she died. 2 years after Patsy's death, in 2008, the DA's office issued the letter exonerating the family based on DNA evidence. Patsy never lived to see it. Burke Ramsey has perhaps suffered the most from public speculation. He was 9 years old when his sister died. He lost JonBenet, then watched his family torn apart by accusations and media coverage. Because Burke was a child, he was initially protected from the worst of the speculation. But as he grew older, as the internet age arrived, as true crime documentaries proliferated, Burke's name became increasingly associated with theories that he had killed his sister. The theory promoted most prominently in the 2016 CBS documentary, The Case of JonBenét Ramsey, suggested that Burke had hit JonBenet in a moment of anger, perhaps over the bowl of pineapple, and that John and Patsy had staged the crime scene to cover it up. The documentary featured forensic experts conducting experiments to show that a 9-year-old could generate enough force to cause the skull fracture found on JonBenét. They walked through a scenario where Burke hit his sister. The parents discovered what happened, and they made the horrific decision to stage a kidnapping gone wrong to save their son. Burke watched this documentary, and for the first time in his life, he decided to fight back. In 2016, weeks before the CBS documentary aired, Burke sat down for his first public interview with Dr. Phil McGraw. For 20 years, Burke had remained silent. Now he spoke. Burke described the night JonBenét died. He described waking up to chaos in the house. He described being taken to a friend's house while police investigated. He described learning his sister was dead. He addressed the theories directly. "I know people think I did it," Burke said. "I know people think my parents did it. I know we were cleared." Burke's demeanor during the interview was unusual. He smiled frequently, even when discussing serious topics. Some viewers found this disturbing, interpreting it as evidence of guilt or sociopathy. Mental health professionals explained that nervous smiling is a common stress response. Burke had lived with social anxiety his entire adult life. Being interviewed about his sister's murder, knowing millions would watch, would cause extreme stress. The smiling was a coping mechanism, not evidence of anything sinister. Burke stated clearly, "I did not kill JonBenét." 3 weeks after the interview aired, Burke filed a $750 million lawsuit against CBS and the producers of the documentary. The lawsuit was settled in 2019 for an undisclosed amount. CBS never retracted the documentary, but the settlement suggested Burke's legal team believed they had a strong case. Burke has since returned to private life. He works in information technology. He has stayed away from media. He has tried as much as possible to live a normal life. But normal is something Burke Ramsey will never truly have. His sister's murder defined his childhood. The accusations defined his adolescence and young adulthood. Even now, at 37 years old, Burke cannot escape the shadow of December 26, 1996. John Ramsey is now 81 years old. He has remarried. He has tried to rebuild a life, but he has never stopped fighting for justice for JonBenét. In recent years, John has become an advocate for genetic genealogy testing in cold cases. He has pushed the Boulder Police Department to use every available technology.
He has criticized what he views as decades of tunnel vision and mismanagement. John has said publicly that he believes the case can still be solved, the DNA evidence will eventually identify the killer, that his family's name will be fully cleared. Whether he lives to see that day remains uncertain. The Ramsey family has paid an enormous price for JonBenét's murder. They lost a daughter and sister. They lost their reputation. They lost their privacy. They lost the ability to grieve privately. They were accused of one of the worst crimes imaginable, not by law enforcement in a court of law, but by media and public opinion in the court of TV. And for 28 years, they have waited for justice, for answers, for vindication. To understand why the JonBenét Ramsey case has remained unsolved for 28 years, you have to understand the catastrophic failures in the first hours and days of the investigation. Failures that compromised evidence, misdirected the investigation, and may have allowed a killer to escape justice for nearly 3 decades. The Boulder Police Department was not prepared for this case. Boulder is a college town, relatively affluent, with low violent crime rates. The department had little experience with child homicides. They had no experience with a case that would become an international media sensation. And from the moment Officer Rick French arrived at the Ramsey home at 5:59 a.m. on December 26, 1996, mistakes were made that would haunt this investigation forever. Mistake number 1, the crime scene was not secured. In any potential kidnapping or homicide, the first priority is to secure the scene, limit who enters, control movement through the house, preserve potential evidence. None of this happened. Friends and family were allowed to enter. More than a dozen people moved through the house in the first hours. They used bathrooms, they made coffee, they sat in various rooms. Every person who entered was a potential source of contamination. Fibers from their clothing, DNA from touching surfaces, footprints on floors. All potential evidence that could have identified the killer was now mixed with innocent transfer from people trying to help the family. This failure meant that any evidence found later could be challenged in court. Defense attorneys would argue that DNA, fibers, fingerprints, all of it could have come from the friends and family who were in the house that morning, not from the killer. Mistake number 2, Officer French's search of the basement. When Officer French opened the door to the wine cellar at approximately 6:15 a.m., JonBenét's body was lying on the floor just feet away. If he had turned on the light and stepped inside, the body would have been discovered immediately. The house would have been sealed as a homicide scene. Evidence would have been photographed in place before being collected. The position of the body, the arrangement of items in the room, all critical details would have been preserved. Instead, the body remained in that room for 7 more hours. When John Ramsey finally discovered her at 1 p.m., his instinct was to pick her up and carry her upstairs. This destroyed the crime scene. The position of the body was lost. Trace evidence was lost. The immediate context of the scene was lost. This failure meant investigators would never know exactly how the killer had positioned JonBenét's body. They would never know if items in the room had been moved or arranged. Critical information was lost forever. Mistake number 3, the focus on the family. Within 48 hours of JonBenét's death, Boulder police had essentially decided the family was responsible. They stopped seriously investigating other leads. They stopped looking for an intruder. They focused all their energy on trying to prove the Ramseys did it. This tunnel vision meant that other suspects, other theories, other avenues of investigation were ignored or given minimal attention. If an intruder did kill JonBenét, the trail was going cold while police focused on the wrong people. Detective Steve Thomas, one of the lead investigators, later wrote a book in which he stated he believed Patsy Ramsey was responsible. He described the evidence he thought pointed to her guilt, but his book also revealed the extent to which the investigation had become fixated on the family to the exclusion of other possibilities. This wasn't good police work. This was confirmation bias. Detectives saw evidence that confirmed what they already believed and dismissed evidence that contradicted their theory. Mistake number 4, the handling of the Ramseys. John and Patsy Ramsey were the parents of the victim. They were grieving, they were traumatized, and they deserved to be treated as victims until evidence proved otherwise. Instead, they were treated as suspects from day one. They were questioned aggressively. They were not given information about the investigation. They were isolated from support systems. This created an adversarial relationship between the family and law enforcement. Instead of the Ramseys and police working together to find the killer, they were working against each other. The Ramseys, feeling attacked, hired attorneys. The attorneys advised them not to give certain interviews, not to answer certain questions. From a legal perspective, this was smart. From an investigative perspective, it created the appearance of guilt. If police had approached the Ramseys as grieving parents first, if they had built trust before turning to suspicion, the investigation might have proceeded very differently. Mistake number 5, the media leaks. Someone in the Boulder Police Department, possibly multiple people, leaked information to the media. Details about the investigation that should have remained confidential were reported in newspapers and on television within days. These leaks damaged the investigation in multiple ways. They tainted potential witnesses. They influenced public opinion. They gave the Ramseys and their attorneys information about the direction of the investigation, allowing them to prepare responses. Most egregiously, some of the leaked information was false. Police fed reporters details that made the Ramseys look guilty, details that were not supported by evidence. This wasn't just bad police work, this was unethical. It was a betrayal of the investigation and a betrayal of justice. Mistake number 6. The DNA evidence was not prioritized early enough. In 1997, when DNA from an unknown male was found on JonBenét's underwear, it should have been a game changer. It should have shifted the investigation towards looking for an intruder. Instead, many investigators dismissed it. They theorized it was innocent transfer. They continued focusing on the family. It wasn't until 2003, when additional DNA was found on the long underwear, that investigators began to take the DNA seriously. And it wasn't until 2008 that the DNA led to the official exoneration of the family. 11 years. The investigation wasted 11 years focusing on the wrong suspects, while the DNA evidence pointed elsewhere. If genetic genealogy, which began being used in criminal investigations around 2018, had been applied to this case immediately when the technology became available, a suspect might have been identified years ago. Instead, it wasn't until 2021 that genetic genealogy was seriously applied to the JonBenét case. Another delay, another failure. These mistakes weren't made by bad people. They were made by detectives who were overwhelmed, inexperienced, and under enormous pressure. They were made by a department that didn't have the resources or expertise to handle a case of this magnitude. But mistakes are still mistakes, and these mistakes cost decades. They cost a family their reputation, and they may have cost JonBenét justice. As of January 2026, the JonBenét Ramsey case stands at a crossroads. For the first time in 28 years, there is legitimate hope that the case might be solved. But hope is not certainty, and progress is not resolution. Here's what we know. The Boulder Police Department, in partnership with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, have applied genetic genealogy to the unknown male DNA found on JonBenét's clothing. This has produced family trees and narrowed potential suspects to specific individuals. Investigators have identified a person of interest. This individual's DNA is consistent with the crime scene evidence. He was in the Boulder area in December 1996. He has a history of property crimes. His whereabouts on Christmas night cannot be definitively established. The investigation is active. Detectives are conducting interviews, reviewing evidence, building a case. The district attorney's office is monitoring the investigation, waiting to see if the evidence will support charges. But there are enormous challenges ahead.